All right, let's get started, man. Appreciate all of you guys that are here. It's not many of y'all, but it's okay. We kind of did it at an inopportune time. 6 o'clock is not the best, specifically on a weekday, but we did want to come in here and have a little conversation. I know that a lot of people are feeling one way or the other about the new hire, Dave Canales. That's how you pronounce it, Dave Canales. We gonna be on top of that because when we signed Frank Wright, we were calling him everything but initially. So we gonna make sure we on top of it this go round.
Do we know if that's for sure how you say his name, Canales?
Canales, yes, Dave Canales. Well, I just know he was on a podcast 10 days ago, and that's how they introduced him, and he didn't correct them. So I mean, if that's not how you pronounce it, then I'm already not liking it because if a nigga pronounce my name wrong, so I'm rocking with Canales. Let me know if I'm wrong. Again, appreciate the people that are here. I know it'll be a lot of people that tune in on YouTube. So appreciate you guys being tuned in as always. You can follow us at For Panthers Fans Only. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at the G2S Network. At FPFO _ podcast on X. That has changed. So make sure you're up to date with that. Again, that's at FPFO _ podcast on X. And TikTok, you can find us TikTok and Threads at For Panthers Fans Only. Appreciate you guys for being here. Carolina Panthers have made the announcement that their new head coach will be former Bucs offensive coordinator Dave Canales. And this is, I just wanted to hop on here very, very briefly. We're in the middle of our break, but as always, we do what we need to do to make sure we get you guys the content and make sure that we're staying ahead of the game. So we wanted to hop in and do a brief live just to kind of give our immediate reaction. So, Terrence, I'll let you take it away. How are you feeling about this? Is this the answer to our problems, or are we doomed for another 2-15 season?
I mean, I don't think that we have another 2-15 season in us. I really don't have the reaction over the hire as many people might have expected or would think, kind of thing. And I know that's kind of like a vague answer, but like with Frank Wright, I knew he wasn't the answer just based off of history, based off of what he did the previous year. I mean, I don't feel that way with Dave Canales. I just don't know if he was the right person compared to the head coaches that were on the market. But I will say the thing that makes me okay with it is that, I mean, if you just go look at the past few years of the quarterbacks that he's mentored and then their immediate turnaround seasons after, he's had his hand in those things as far as Geno Smith, he mentored, or he was Russell Wilson's quarterback coach when he had career highs in numbers. He just turned Baker's season around after we ruined them and after the Cleveland Browns ruined them. So, I mean, like, if I want to take something positive from the situation, then that's one thing that I will take positive from the situation. Other than that, I would say I don't know enough about Dave Canales to say, oh, he would be this or he would be that. And but I mean, if I had the positive is Bryce Young is a young quarterback, rookie quarterback, and Dave Canales. If his main strength is mentoring quarterbacks and being able to turn their careers around, then I think if we want to see a chance at Bryce Young being the Bryce Young that we thought we were getting from Alabama, if we want to turn his rookie season around, then I think Dave Canales is a good start for that. But, I mean, other than that, I don't really have too much to say about the guy. I would like to know what was like the thing where it was like, okay, we're going to pick him over a Mike Vrabel or Raheem Morris or Ben Johnson. I just kind of want to know the process. Like, I want to know the process. I'm probably not entitled to that.
Well,
I mean, I don't have
not to cut you off, but I mean, I've been seeing a lot of rumors that Ben Johnson, who the Carolina Panthers were totally in on, I've been seeing a lot of rumors that he's going to be the Washington Commanders' new head coach. Yeah. So I kind of X his name off of the list just to add context to your question there.
Yeah, because I think he probably really didn't fuck with us. But either way, like I said, I feel like I would want to know the process. Like, what was it about Dave Canales that it was like, okay, we're going with you, kind of thing. But I mean, yeah, that's kind of my initial take
Yeah,
on it.
for sure. I mean, I pretty much love everything that you said, bro. And honestly, I wish that we weren't so pressed for time because I have a lot of different perspectives that the different perspectives and context that I would like to add and just questions of my own as well regarding the situation. But I'm gonna try and keep it as short as possible because I know that me and you spoke and we both have things that we gotta attend to. My immediate reaction was, I mean, just transparently, I'm in a group chat with a couple of my cousins, all up and down the East Coast. Got a couple in New York, Georgia, Florida, etc. And one of my cousins asked me, Cowboys fan, ironically enough, asked me how I felt about the hire. And I told him just plain and simple, nothing. I have no reaction to it, just simply based on the fact that last year I got duped by the Carolina Panthers, their PR team, their social media team, the organization as a whole to be sold this dream of Bryce Young coming and being dropped in to a situation that was going to be ideal and to a situation that, we were going to win the NFC South, what I perceived that situation was going to be. So I've made a commitment to myself this offseason, no matter what happens, to not get too high or get too low. That being said, I can see both perspectives. Like you said, I'm just going to add, my own perspective relatively, um, add my own perspective really to what you were saying. Why did the Carolina Panthers, go with this guy, first time head coach, one that, he's spent over a decade in Seattle, and then he um, went over to Tampa Bay, became their offensive coordinator last year. We saw what he was able to do with Baker Mayfield. Did a great job, like you said. That is where I can see. Okay, this could be a positive because you have a young quarterback, second year guy, well, rookie quarterback going into his second year. When you have a guy that's proven, like you said, we've seen the resurgence of Geno Smith. Now you can make the argument Geno Smith never had a real opportunity. You can make the argument that Seattle already knew what they had in Geno Smith. That's why they were so comfortable with letting Russell Wilson go. Whatever the case may be, that was still the first time that we ever saw Geno Smith perform at that level. And then when he was gone this past season, we saw Geno Smith's game decline significantly. Now, you can make the argument that was because of injuries or whatever may have you. That's great if that's the stance you want to take. However, what I know is when Dave Canales was there, he looked great. At times, he was in the MVP conversation, like it or not. When he left, he was almost a shell of himself, and the Seattle Seahawks as a whole just didn't look like the same team. Um, so that would be the positive, I guess you could say. You have a young quarterback, a guy who seems to be, some form of quarterback whisperer over the last two seasons, and really from a organizational standpoint, that's what we needed, and that's what it was made a point of emphasis that we were going to bring in a guy that could turn Bryce around and play into his strengths more so than Frank Reich had the ability to do. Where I have a cause for pause. Okay, now this is not me being overly pessimistic or me trying to be negative. Again, I'm right in the middle. I'm right in the middle. If the guy comes in and he wins football games, I love him. If he doesn't, then I'm almost in the same position that I was in last year, where we need to fire that nigga and try again next offseason, right? Why you have cause for pause is because the names that were presented as a whole, one of the deepest head coaching free agent periods, I guess you could say, that we've ever seen. And then about an hour and a half, 2 hours later, you see the Atlanta Falcons go out and get Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris. So that is in division. So that already has to give you a cause for pause. But then if you just take a look at what Tampa Bay's offense did last year, and I have my notes here, 20th ranked total offense, 23rd in yards per game, 20th in yards per play, 14th passing net yards per attempt, 16th in scoring percentage, 32nd in rushing, and 32nd in rushing yards per attempt. So that's where if you're kind of not completely sold on this guy, that's where that comes in, because those stats, I mean, obviously from a rushing standpoint, it's absolutely brutal. It's
and it's
pathetic. I mean, the worst in the league.
bottom half in almost everything. So it's not even like that. This was some
Yeah,
high powered offense.
right.
Like
Exactly. And to add the context, there is this was an offense at their disposal that had Chris Godwin, that had Mike Evans, that had Rashad White, that had a veteran quarterback. No matter how we feel about him, had a veteran quarterback at the head of it. So it's one of those situations where it really could get sticky and it really could get ugly because we see really just based on statistics, and this is all we can go off of when you look at a first-time head coach like Dave Canales. You look at the statistics, and he's really just an average offensive coordinator. Like we can make the argument, like I initially said, if you're on the optimistic side of things and say, yes, he may be this quarterback whisperer, but at the end of the day, when you look at it as a whole, when he had his opportunity, the first time he was ever an offensive coordinator in the NFL, that's what he gave us. 20th, 23rd, 20th, 14th, 16th, 32nd, and 32nd.
and
So that's
I'll say something else too. A lot of y'all probably won't like this, but I don't care. So probably another guy that he can be Dave Tepper's puppet.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And I saw that perspective as well because it's his first time. What does he know?
so it's like nigga, you're either gonna fall in line, or I mean, you've seen what I did to Frank Wright.
Right.
Like, so it could be something he could be a guy that is easier to control by Dave Tepper. Which I mean, we all hope that's not the case because we all hope that this is like I see somebody keep commented a few times, like hoping that Dave Tepper takes a step back and let the GM choose the coach and things like that, which that could very much well be the case. That and
They do have that relationship from Seattle.
yeah, and from our if he has our best interest, then we hope that that is the case. But we also know who Dave Tepper is and who he's known to be. This could just be another coach who he has more control over than any of those other guys that were on the market.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. And that would bring me to, we didn't really touch on Dan Morgan at all. So I guess just to keep things flowing, the relationship, obviously the Carolina Panthers hired Dan Morgan or promoted, however you want to look at it, to the general manager position, and I believe the president of football operations as well. So Dan Morgan had that. Dan Morgan already has that relationship with Dave Canales from their time in Seattle. So that could definitely be one of those situations where that relationship played a significant role. And to be honest, I mean, I think that if you don't think that relationship played a part in it, I believe that you would be like idiotic, just to be 100% honest with you, because there's no way that you're able to tell me a guy. Now, mind you, Dave Canales legitimately had no other head coaching interviews. That's another problem that I have personally. But again, I don't want to be overly pessimistic, but that's another problem that I have. He had absolutely no other head coaching interviews or opportunities, which then again makes you look at the Carolina Panthers organization like, okay, cool, y'all ain't serious about winning football games.
Well, I will also say that, I mean, this will fall along the lines of my opinions that I had to start when we hired Dan Morgan. I know we didn't really talk about it publicly, but this is something that we talked about amongst each other and our team, that I wasn't too high on the Dan Morgan hiring. I just didn't want anybody who, and maybe we did touch on this because he was in that conversation, but I didn't want anyone who had anything to do with this past year's success to be moved up in power to where they're controlling the shit from, like, they continue to have control over what's going on just because last year was so bad. And so, I mean, if this shit doesn't turn out the way we hope it does, then I mean, that just goes to support that, Dan Morgan wasn't the right hire to start with, and then he brings in his guy and he ends up not being the right nigga. So it will have all started with hiring Dan Morgan, which I hope that's not the case. But it very much well could be.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did touch on it a little bit. Actually, Yeah, it's a whole story behind that too. Because I thought that we touched. I knew for a fact we touched on it with Dunk, but I couldn't remember if we had like did one of our production pods that wasn't alive and we touched on it because I thought we did, but I wasn't able to find the time at which we were talking about it. But just to kind of stay in that pocket for a second, um, Tim Donnelly, he's with ESPN 99.9, I believe, up in Charlotte. But I love listening to his stuff because he adds different perspective, and he's just somebody that I respect in the sports journalism world, specifically as it pertains to Carolina Panthers content. But he went on his show this past week after the Carolina Panthers hired Dan Morgan and said the only way Dan Morgan could have gone into his interview and came out with a job was if he completely renounced, obviously paraphrasing here, completely renounced everything Scott Fitterer did. Because logically, if you're Dave Tepper and you're Nicole Tepper and whoever else was a part of the hiring committee for, the general manager process or whatever the case may be, the only way you get that you come out with that job after what you put on the field this season, the only way you come out with that job is if you renounce everything that your partner was doing. It's damn near it's like you got a Fed case, right? And and them niggas got you hemmed up. So the only way at this point you can even look for a lifeline is if you get the snitching. That's how I see the situation. That's how I see the situation. And so, I mean, it's great because Dan Morgan is, obviously a Carolina Panthers legend. He embodies that keep pounding mentality. I heard, through the grapevine that he's a cool dude, a good guy to interact with. But all of that shit is out the window, man. Like I told y'all about midway through the season, me and Terrence both harped on this. We both done with the cute shit, bro. We're both done with the cute shit. We're both done with the theatrics. So the only thing that we can do is hope and pray for the best. But again, you bring in a guy who's an assistant GM, a guy that at some point or another had to play the role a role in the lack of success that we experienced this season. And then you go and get a head coach in which who completely unproven. He has one season under his belt as an offensive coordinator. Obviously, he won a Super Bowl with Seattle. He won a couple of times with Seattle. However, the only real success was that one Super Bowl that he was a part of the coaching staff, but nothing else really that stands out. For him to only be a first-year offensive coordinator, again, had absolutely no other head coaching opportunities or interviews as the window has been open. It gives you a cause for pause. I'm right in the middle, once again, right in the middle. I don't want to say I'm optimistic or pessimistic or I like it or I don't. I'm right in the middle. I can see both sides. You have the argument with Geno and Baker. You have the argument where he's been middle of the pack or lower half with his offense last year, an offense that has a ton of more weapons than the Carolina Panthers currently have rostered. So it's just life is about perspective at the end of the day. If I had to choose a side, I would say I'm a bit more pessimistic about the signing. However, I would like to maintain my stance that I'm right in the middle because I don't want to be somebody that flip flops and he comes out and he looks like a genius. I don't want to be that guy, and if he looks like dog shit, I don't want to be the guy that said he was going to look like a genius. Quick question, and Terrence, I mean, you add the as much context as you want or as much feedback as you want. We'll probably go for about another 5 or 10 minutes here. But it was reported that Mike Vrabel was in Atlanta last night. He was gonna or yesterday. He was gonna catch a flight to Charlotte tonight or last night. Catch a flight to Charlotte and then be in the building for an interview. Did he even get a shot? That's a question that I have to know.
Yeah, I mean that situation is so weird because it could have went a couple different ways. Either he felt his interview was so good in Atlanta that he didn't even need to come down this bitch because we don't even know if he made it in Carolina. We don't know.
But he felt that way. Surprise, surprise,
Yeah.
nigga. Didn't go that way.
I don't because I think if it's leaked that he's coming in for an interview, and then you announce that you're hiring Dave Canales. When did they announce this today? When was this? This was earlier in the day.
Yeah, very, very. It was definitely earlier in the day. I want to say a little after lunchtime.
So it's like what the fuck did he interview at 6 a.m. in the morning? And they just said, yeah, no, he ain't shit. Or that almost just makes me think that he didn't even come. Whether that was because he just didn't want to, wasn't really that interested in the job. Because this is, if you think about it, this is his first time that his name is being brought up. And while other guys have already interviewed twice, this is the first time his name is being brought up. So it's like maybe they just said that just because, or maybe he just like, I don't know. I don't think he even showed up, honestly. That they might have had their mind made up by the time he got out of that Atlanta interview that we know who we're going with. So don't even bother showing up. I don't think he showed up. So I don't know.
It was just very weird, man. It was very weird to me because you had the Vrabel news come out last night, and then 12 p.m. today, you get the announcement that Dave Canales is going to be the next head coach. Very strange to me because if Mike Vrabel showed up to the building, we didn't get any feedback as far as if the interview went well or if it didn't. Like it's very strange to me. But if and this is kind of going to roll over to the next topic, in which we'll close with, if Dave Tepper and the hiring committee, whoever it consists of, was doing their due diligence as they try to give off by hiring the sportsology, the sports consulting firm, if they were doing their due diligence, there's no way in hell you have a coach like Mike Vrabel available, set up for an interview, and he doesn't even show up, or he doesn't even get the opportunity to make his case for the head coaching position. It's just very, very strange to me. And this kind of goes back to, a conversation that we had with Dunk on the last live that we hosted. And, the whole sportsology shit, it was kind of fishy from the beginning. And Terrence, you were a lot more skeptical about the whole situation than I was, for sure. Yeah. So I mean, it's very, very strange that you go out, you hire this, world-renowned sports consulting firm, and what you come out of that with is an in-house promotion from an unproven guy like Dan Morgan, unproven in the as it pertains to front office, unproven in-house promotion, and then a coach that didn't even have another interview for anybody's head coaching position in the NFL, where there's about 8 or 9 jobs available.
And then to top it all off, a coach like Mike Vrabel doesn't even show up to the interview, because I don't even believe he showed up to announce it and then him not get an interview. No sports consulting firm who is as highly talked about as this one, or how they made it out the scene, is conducting business like that. I don't think so.
That's nasty work. It's just not going that way. It's nasty work. So again, it get like, this is why I said, bro, I don't want to get too high and I don't want to get too low, because if you think deep enough into it and you look at what's actually going on, it'll drive you crazy, bro. Because there's no way, like you said, there's no way you're telling me that you went out and hired this consulting firm and this is what you came up with. And mind you, we're not even in February, bro. I don't remember when Frank Reich was announced as the head coach for the Carolina Panthers. I'm not sure, Dylan, if you could, let me see if I can look it up just real quick so we can close. January 26th. Okay, cool. So January 26th, Frank Reich. So maybe this is on brand, is on target, damn near 360, like legitimately almost 365 days to the T. But in my opinion, this was very early, bro. This was very early with how deep everything is, with all of the openings, and only a piece, really 2 pieces, because Tennessee, they went and hired, who was the guy that Tennessee hired? I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Brian Callahan or something?
Yeah. They the offensive coordinator from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
They went with him, and then the Chargers went and hired Jim Harbaugh, But then after that, I mean, there were still multiple openings. We didn't know who was going where for the most part. And it seems as though we didn't even do our. It seemed like this whole interview process has been extremely fast with a couple of the names like Ben Johnson. You know, us not even really hearing much about him throughout the process. Like it's very weird, bro. It's very weird. It's very nasty. Like I said, if you look too deep into it, the shit will drive you crazy because I don't understand why Sportsology was even brought in. If this was going to be the case, you could have did this on your own. I don't understand why we didn't hear anything about Mike Vrabel at all. So it's just,
I got a
you
question
know,
real quick, JJ,
what's
for Bloody.
yeah,
So I mean, if you think Tepper chose Dan and Dan chose Dave, like if you don't think that the consulting firm had anything to do with these hires, and you know it was all Dave Tepper, what makes you like these hires? Because we've known Dave Tepper to fuck up over the past recent years. Damn near every year he's been here.
yeah,
So what?
yeah. I don't know what would make you feel confident. I
What?
you should feel if that's bloody. If that's how you feel, game, then you should be feeling
Yeah, you
shitty
should feel sick as hell. Yeah,
because ain't done he ain't done nothing right.
yeah.
He's done nothing right. His only claim to fame since he's been in Charlotte is bringing live music to Bank of America Stadium. As it pertains to the Panthers, he's done nothing right. When you look at training camp, when you look at the Pink Hill project, when you look at the indoor facility that they had right beside the stadium that is now being torn down, when you look at the argument between Bryce and CJ, when you look at them selling us on this free agent class that they brought in, when you look at the decision to go to give Scott Fitterer the power to even think about drafting DJ Johnson, like the list goes on and on and on. When you look at the decision to bring in Frank Reich and this all-star coaching staff that didn't amount to anything but 2 wins, he's done absolutely nothing right at all. So, Bloody, if you are right about that, this is very, 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 very bad.
Yeah, you see, I think Tepper might take a step back now. That's just my guess. I mean, that's what we all hope for. I mean, I just don't. He hasn't done anything thus far that leads me to believe that he will do that, other than letting Dan hire Dave. But by him hiring Dan, he already fucked me up with that, honestly.
Ty, you said Dave Tepper has a golden touch. Just give him time. That man is damn near the richest motherfucker in the world. Hey, listen.
To do with football, though.
Exactly. All of it. That's great. I've never knocked him for being a phenomenal businessman. He's one of the richest NFL owners in the league. He's one of the richest owners in the league. I never knocked him for his business sense, but as it pertains to football, he has told us on multiple occasions he don't know shit about football, and he not only stated that, but he went as far as to give us examples of how he doesn't know football.
So, I mean, year after year.
Yeah, year after year after year for the first 5 or 6 years of his tenure, he hasn't showed us shit. So I can't just give him time. It has to be a sense of urgency because Bryce Young only has a certain amount of time. This defense that you've established and that you've built only has a certain amount of time. So me personally, I can't live through just give him time. Just give him time doesn't work for me when we've been an organization for 26 years now, and we've been to 2 Super Bowls, have multiple playoff wins, multiple NFC Championship appearances. Just give them time doesn't work for me. And I've said multiple times on the podcast that, we may have been spoiled as a fan base due to the fact that we have had the success that we've had. But if that's the case, then I'm a spoiled brat. We don't have time. We don't have time. That doesn't work for me. Now, if Dave Canales bring Mike Evans down this bitch with him, then I'm gonna get to talking like JJ, like I was talking last year. But then I'll be wrong, right, Terrence?
I mean, if he bring Mike Evans, then
you turn this bitch up. And I'm not gonna lie, the jersey will be delivered 4 or 5 days after the signing happens, because I will be purchasing that day. So, But that's really all I have, man. Really just, again, wanting to hop on real quick, just give y'all a little bit of content. The full video will be available on YouTube. So if you were a little bit late, or you just joined and you're hopping in, hopping out, whatever the case may be, you can go check us out at the G2S Network. Or if you go on YouTube, search up for Panthers Fans Only, it'll pop up there as well. If you do decide to do that and you're not subscribed already, make sure that you subscribe, share with a friend, tell a friend to tell a friend. G2S Network for Panthers Fans Only. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Terrence, do you have anything you would like to say?
Nah, not really. Appreciate y'all. We're gonna share the live as well. So if you haven't tuned in or didn't get a chance, then feel free to go back on the Instagram and watch it through. But appreciate y'all for stopping by, and we'll see y'all soon.